Hey, how's it going everyone? Justin again. As always, thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back. Today we're going to be kind of doing like a little overview for dummies when it comes to the Triton D8 made by Snap-on. As you guys may already know, this is a new scan tool to me that I have recently picked up from my Snap-on tool distributor. In this case, it comes with the charger, your DLC connector. Nothing special about this. Plugs into the tool as well as into the DLC. It is important to note that if this green LED bulb right here is not on, then you have no power at the DLC connector, and you're going to want to check fuses to make sure you don't have a blown fuse. This is a common problem on Chevrolet especially, so by going underneath the hood and going into the power distribution center where all your fuses are, I would look for that cigarette lighter fuse. It's usually a 10 or 20 amp fuse, and you will see that it's usually blown. Not sure why, but if this light's not lit up, you are not getting power at the DLC, and your scan tool might not power on. You get a few different adapters here. You've got a black and yellow test lead. This is going to be for your primary scoping use and probably DVOM style use, because there is a built-in multimeter function in this tool. So we'll cover that here a little bit later in the video. But they give you your ground, and then they give you, of course, your power side, if you will. They also give you two test probes. I think a little bit bulkier on the tip side of things, but that's pretty much the way that they've been for many years now. Actually, I prefer the ones that they give you with the DVOM. I do not know if they are interchangeable, but they do give you two that go with this specific test lead set. They also give you alligator clamps, so if you're T-pinning into something, you're going to get a few different clamps here. You got one for your ground, okay? You got one here for your channel 1, and then you got a green one for channel 2. And of course, they give you a green with a black lead off for your channel 2. Now this black lead off is kind of incorporated with the yellow and black one. What I mean by that is you're going to end up piggybacking it like so, and they share the same exact ground. So that way you can actually take the green probe or the green alligator clamp and put it on your T-pin. Same thing with the yellow one, etc. And I'll show you a little picture down here in the corner so you guys can see what that looks like. But that's exactly how that would be hooked up. The only time that you're ever going to not use the double-backed one, I've seen this before with other technicians that have the Snap-on Diagnostic scan tool / scope platforms, where they take because there's two different leads they give you. They give you one where you can connect the other one together, much like we showed you in the picture. And then on the yellow test lead set, they just give you one that you cannot piggyback off of. Why is that? Because one of them is a designated ground. So instead of, I've seen this, where they piggyback like that off of each other, you're not gaining any additional ground off of that. The one is strictly used to incorporate the channel 2 if you're going to. So you can rest assured, just plugging this one in and leaving the other one hanging, you're fine, you're not going to knock it off. I've also seen other people use the ohms side of things. So when you're plugging in your test lead set to use the ohm meter on this particular scan tool / scope / meter, I have actually seen technicians, let me just set this up here real quick for you. I have actually seen a technician set it up this way, and that is not how this tool was intended to be used, okay? You do not have to have the other cable plugged into the ground side. When you're using the ohm setting on this tool, it'll show you to put the ground lead or the negative, black, right here, and it'll tell you to use the positive lead or the yellow and plug it in here. So you already have your known good ground, you already have your positive of whatever it is that you're trying to test here, and then you just go ahead and plug and play. Do not use the ground side unless you are using volts, in which case you'll have one plugged in like so. You'll have one on the designated ground, you'll have one plugged into channel 1. Now again, if you're planning on piggybacking or you're not sure you're going to be piggybacking, you can use this one. You don't have to use the enclosed one. It's really up to you. You can choose either one. If you're not planning on piggybacking and you're using it as a multimeter, you can use it like that, or the other one. They just give you two different options. But if you think there's a small chance that you might end up going from the multimeter side to the scope side, and you're going to incorporate a second channel, you can just plug the one in and then just leave the other one free hanging. They also give you a USB cable here, and I'll show you how to set that up. But you're basically going to plug it into the scan tool and then into your laptop or PC. And this is so you can use their ShopStream Connect. ShopStream Connect is another platform all on its own where you can get, so on this scan tool, I think you're allotted 4 different graphs for your PIDs. If you were to carry it over and you wanted to see multiple PID listings from the video recording that you took of it or screenshot that you took of it, I believe as long as you have that video file recorded and saved into the scan tool, you can carry it over and you can look it up and you can have 16, I think you can have up to like 16 different graphs. Don't quote me, we'll have to plug it into a vehicle and see. So that's pretty much going to cover all the ins and outs of the accessories that come with the Triton D8. Now this tool was designed to basically replace the Modus Ultra or Modus Edge to get away from that platform and go over into their Intelligent Diagnostic platform. Intelligent Diagnostics is going to be very, very close in nature to like Direct Hit, otherwise known as Identifix, where you can actually look up what other technicians have already done for known repairs for specific trouble codes that can occur within a computer that will post onto your codes menu when you do a complete code scan. And it will come up, we'll go through the demonstration mode and I'll show you just how easy it is that this works. It's really kind of dummy proof. So let's go ahead and check it out. All right, I'm not going to bore you with all the incidentals of going through and selecting the year, make, model, etc. and then going through the waiting process of the complete code scan. So right now our complete code scan is complete, all of which takes just under about 2 minutes. Between selecting the manufacturer, doing the auto ID search, getting the different control modules that are available for that specific vehicle manufacturer, and then doing a complete code scan. So right now we have a P0300, P0446. This is underneath the demonstration mode. So say we wanted to tackle the P0300 first. If we were to select and highlight that, we can go up here to Research. And if you're connected to the internet, it will show you known repairs, how many times it was repaired, or what was replaced in order to repair it. All right, so say we wanted to select the P0300 code and tackle this one. We could highlight it, go up here to our research, engine light data. You'll see a little magnifying glass with the engine on it. We'll just press that button real quick, and now Intelligent Diagnostics goes to work. Now you do have to be connected to internet in order to use this, but you will see other technicians that have reported known repair fixes based on a certain mileage, based on a certain amount of technicians that have also found this to be true. Now, between the 75 and up to 125,000 mark, you will see that the most common replacement is 211 known replacements of the spark plugs is what fixed it. As far as replacing the ignition coil, there were 114. That is in red, and you'll see the most common occurs at around 75,000 miles. And so on and so forth. It'll actually just explain to you how many technicians have replaced these components specifically to fix it. That doesn't mean that that is going to be the fix, but it gives you a starting point. So if you suspect a fouled plug, you can, and you're between the 75 and 125 mark, you can pull a plug and see what it looks like. If they look like they have been already replaced most recently, then you go to your second one, which is going to be replace ignition coil. So then maybe you might do a coil swap, where you swap a known good coil that's not misfiring with the one that is misfiring. And if that cylinder misfire changes from, let's say, cylinder 1, and you swapped 5, and now the misfire moves over to 5 and 1 is okay, then you know that you have a bad coil. Could you do a scope reading on it and watch injector ramp and all sort of stuff? Sure, but why bother? You've swapped the coil, it moved, so that is a known replacement, and then you swapping it showed that to be true. The other one replaced the spark plug wire. So on Chevrolet, they have a wire that goes from coil down to the plug, and you will see the most common repair. usually takes place between 100 and 125,000. So you can take and you can test the plug, see if there's any kind of additional arcing marks or anything like that. Let's go one step further. If we were to scroll down, you'll see that there are 7 technical service bulletins or recalls for this specific vehicle. And then there's some smart data here, which we'll go into. But first, let's select the technical service bulletin since there are 7. So we have a misfire may be due to a loose spark plug wire. So spark plug wire is not being put in all the way. Engine misfire / tick noise malfunction indicator lamp found P0300. So we can select that and we can see what they have going on. All right, let's just start with condition. Some customers may comment or complain that the malfunction indicator lamp is on. Technician finds a P0300. Cause may be caused to active fuel management, lifter that is mechanically collapsed or stuck all the time, internal locking pin damaged in the lifter due to oil, aeration, lifter that has been collapsed and stuck in the lifter bore. The engine may have a bent push rod. So he goes through, tells you what he inspected in order to find it, recommendations or instructions, and here gives detailed information of checking out the lifters, pulling them, etc., what he did to get them out. 7 hours if you're doing a Camaro, 10.9 hours on a Silverado. So it's giving you some labor guides too. So that's kind of cool. So this Triton D8 that I picked up, the latest software is 20.2 as you're watching this video. As I just picked this up, this scan tool has been completely unlocked. As I said earlier, you got your 2-channel lab scope, plug-in ports, plus your ground, and then you get the scan tool charging port. It's important to note that you can either use the charger for the 110 outlet, or you can use the DLC connector with the VGA connector, plug it in, and when you're connected to a vehicle, this scan tool will be charging as you're using it, so you can take it over to your computer and look at the other information and or collect your information and transfer it over into your shop's file. All right, let's cover some of the features that we see here on front. I think we'll start with the tools first. So in tools, if you wanted to connect it to your PC to use their ShopStream Connect, you're going to want to make sure that we have this plugged into a laptop, and from there we can hit connect to PC. So I'm going to grab my laptop so I can kind of show you as we go. In order to connect to your PC, it cannot do this wirelessly. You will have to plug in that USB cable that they gave you in your kit, and you would have had to have downloaded the ShopStream Connect application from their website. Their website can be found in your owner's manual, which came with any and all their scan tools. So just read through the owner's manual and it'll walk you through the various websites that you're going to want for this. So if we hit connect to PC, this device is now connected to the PC. Now I'm going to pan over to the laptop and show you. All right, so as you can see that the bundle 20.2 service release, it is strongly recommended that users download and install this update. So I already have 20.2, but they're telling me that there is a new update available for this scan tool. For right now, we're going to go ahead and cancel just for all intensive purposes. Now over here, you're going to see that I have a demo movie. I might have some XML files, which are going to be saved files. And if we double click on these, you're going to see the past vehicles that we looked up, like this Chevrolet 2016 Tahoe 5.3 code scan. This is using the demonstration model portion of the scan tool itself. It's going to show you 2 engine codes. It's going to give you an analysis, tell you what the 2 engine codes were, and all this can be printed and or saved. A feature that I like about this ShopStream Connect is that if we go to Tools, Options, and Edit Shop Info, depending on whether or not you own your own shop, work for a dealership, or work for an independent shop, you can fill in the shop's name, their address, city, state, zip code, You can type in your technician name, the service writer's name, the service manager's name on these message lines. And then you can type in any kind of a storyline that you want here for the print header that you want to have, or you can just leave that entirely blank. What's nice about having a feature like this, so when I had the Ethos Pro and then the Solus Edge, I was using this program at the dealership before I went over to the independent shop. And what it did for me was it gave me record for the customer to attach to the back of the RO. So if they wanted to know what the specific codes were and that specific service writer did not go through our dealership software to see, or maybe there was a fault on my part and I didn't annotate what codes were in the system prior to doing either the service or the diagnostic troubleshooting, I can come back to the sheets that I already have saved here on my scan tool, because the scan tool will save up to so many different vehicles, so many different movies, so many different screen captures. So I can always go back into that previous vehicle history, pull it up so long as I hadn't deleted it, and then reprint what the codes were. So that's extremely helpful to have that kind of information on hand in case you don't remember off the top of your head what the codes were and you did do a full code scan or saved any kind of screenshots or movies as a result. Okay, one more piece of information that I wanted to share with you about this before we go back to the scan tool that I had forgotten to mention. So say you took a movie recording and you're only limited to viewing maybe 4 PIDs at a time, or up to 4 PIDs at a time on your Triton D8. If you're plugged into the ShopStream Connect, we can double click the movie recording that we took with that. We can get up to 16 different graphs if we wanted to. So the same amount of graphs that the Zeus provides you with, if you wanted to look at 16 different graphing charts at one time, you can using ShopStream Connect. So even though you're limited to viewing about 4, maybe 6 different graphs at one time on the Triton, you can hook it up to ShopStream Connect and view up to 16. Now, I don't know very many technicians that view 16 different graphs at one time. That might get a little confusing. I do know a handful of technicians that will view anywhere between 4 and up to 8 different graphs at one time. But the option is there, so if that's something that you were looking to use featured wise, and you were hung up on the fact that that was a feature that you wanted that the Triton does not have, worry not. ShopStream Connect gives you that ability. All you got to do is go through and select which ones that you would like to view in the graphing format. Simply by customizing the list, you can just go through and handpick your own. All right, we're going to go ahead and exit our PC now. So we are all done. Okay, we can safely disconnect the USB cable. I do not recommend just simply unplugging the USB cable from the scan tool or the computer without disconnecting. I know that there have been certain issues with pulling USB sticks out ahead of time. I know that there's issues with pulling the DLC connector out of a vehicle without going back to the main menu. This could potentially harm the PCM. Look guys, I don't think I've got to go into too much detail. Just make sure if there is an exit button that you exit prior to removing that USB cable so you don't damage any kind of software when it comes to the scan tool. I'm going to go ahead and put a picture overlay here to kind of show you what Get Connected is. So there's another program that's called the Altus Drive, and I believe that is the system or the interface where other technicians can communicate via the Snap-on cloud, and you can share information back and forth as you're diagnosing vehicles and you have known common repairs. That's how all this information is generated. So by having that, sharing your expertise, you'll go through, you'll fill out an application, again, a different website that you're going to have to go to, and they're going to ask for some system information before you can just go ahead and download this entire program, sharing it with your name and information. They're going to want the serial number to the scan tool, and then of course there's some other key coding information that they're going to want to know. And again, I'll do a photo overlay here, but by going into system information, you're gonna find your PIN number as well as your code number. You're not gonna find the PIN number or code number in the owner's manual. So if you're going on to the Altus website in order to fill out all this information and getting started, if you don't know where those numbers are, they are under service information, system information. All right, so settings. So if you would like to configure your settings from imperial over to metric, you can. There's system settings for that. If you want to configure or connect to Wi-Fi, that's where you would go for that. You can configure the scanner any way you want to by showing graphs, hiding graphs. You can change the units of measure as we talked about. The system settings is going to display, so you can change the display if you wanted to change the color of the display. You can change the brightness, again, color, contrast, font, the backlight, touch calibration, etc. You got the date and time, so you can set that, auto, VIN, search ID, etc. Play around with it a little bit. Snap-on Diagnostics does have a channel, and I'll put the link down below in the description where they go through more involved and in-depth details on various aspects of this scan tool, but we're kind of doing a walkthrough for dummies here. Okay, previous data, save data. They have vehicle history, so we can go through our vehicle history. We can see all the different vehicles that we plugged into. We got the Chevy Tahoe that was a demo mode, the BMW, which was a demo mode, the Mercury Sable, which I was working on, which I plugged into. I had gotten it incorrect the first time, so I went back through and reset it. You had the Acura, 2005 Acura MDX that I had plugged into, as well as a Tahoe, a Ford Ecoline, a Subaru Impreza, and a Chrysler Town & Country. So these, oh, and an Acura RSX. So these are the different vehicles that I've already scanned with this vehicle and kind of played around with it a little bit, try to get more of a warm and fuzzy. You can delete all saved data, so there's view saved data. It's going to show us all of our view saved data. If we want to delete all that saved data, we can. We just select the ones we want to, if we wanted to keep one, or by simply going up here into the top right corner, you're going to see a little check mark, uncheck mark. We're going to select that, and that's going to select all the codes. From there, we can just hit the delete button, which is in the top right corner. It looks like a sheet of paper with an X through it. Push that, deletes all the files. Cool, good to go. No more saved data. All right, when it comes to vehicle history, you can't delete any of the vehicle history, okay? It's whatever you plugged into, it's gonna save up to X amount, and it'll just kind of repeat itself over and over. I wouldn't be so hung up or determined to delete any saved data really, unless you just want to try to clear space or you like having it clean. I always recommend trying to save as much data as it'll allow you to, and it'll take the next one, you know what I mean? So if you're saving new data, it'll just knock off the oldest one, if I'm not mistaken by that. Or I'm sure it's going to tell you, hey, getting full, buddy, time to delete some stuff, and then you can. That way you're not losing important information from past vehicles. Now, I didn't have anything of any significant importance in there, so we're not worried about that. Quick lookup. So we can look up oil specs and resets, tire and wheel service. So if we wanted to do an oil spec lookup, so we'll just go into the demonstration. Let's say we're looking up this Chevrolet, right? That's the most common thing to go through when we're doing the demonstration. Let's go LT. All right, so this is a pretty neat little feature for my lube guys, and even for my heavy line guys, maybe even diagnostic guys that don't know. They have not quite memorized the amount of quarts or the viscosity that you're supposed to use when it comes to oil changes. If you go under this and you select the vehicle that you want to, again, if you're hooked up to it, you might be able to auto ID it, or you might have to manually input it. But over here, it's going to tell you the quarts without filter, the viscosity of oil to use, and then it's going to tell you the quarts with filter and the viscosity to use. And then it should even tell us exactly how to reset this as well. Okay, so it didn't show us in the demonstration mode, but I have used the oil reset feature in the past with my Snap-on Solus Edge, and it actually does walk you through either what buttons you're supposed to push and hold, or if you're supposed to push the gas pedal, etc. The scope multimeter, a lot of you guys already know that we talked about how it comes with a lab scope, but it also has a graphing multimeter if you wanted it to graph something in particular as you're doing it, or you can use just the digital DC volts, ohms, you can test diodes, etc. This is what you can expect to see from there. So a lot of you might have seen that over glorified DVOM that Snap-on sells that's digital that has a wider screen. Well, if you were looking to get away from your smaller DVOM that you've been carrying around and getting into something like that, but you're also wanting a scan tool, I would recommend getting something like this. That way you can use it for a lot of the interior stuff that you're working on. I would not recommend using something like this on the exterior unless you absolutely have to. I know that if we're testing cams and crank sensors and things like that, and we're doing lab scopes and waveforms on coils and fuel injectors, etc. Yes, the cables are going to get, greasy, maybe a little bit oily, dirty, etc. That's fine. But you wouldn't want to use this all the time. For instance, I've had to test voltage drop for like the DEF sensors and system on the top of the fuel tank. There's a lot of nasty grime on there. You're just asking for trouble when it comes to something that costs this much. So I wouldn't use this in that manner. That's what your pocket DVOM is for, but you can if you just have the cojones for that. But so they do have a low amps here that you can do. Now you can use the leads that they gave you. They also sell a 60 amp low amp clamp, which I have on order, and you can also buy a 40 amp low amp clamp that's also available for this. The 60 amps is going to get you around those battery cables and things like that. The 40 amp clamp going to get you around those real small wires. The only calibrating thing that I think that we have to do here when we're getting ready to do anything with any aspect of this that it doesn't do on its own is going to be ohms. It's going to ask us to go through a calibration process where you'd plug in the 2 leads on top, connect the 2 alligator clips together, and then hit yes, and then it's calibrated to 0. So we'll just back out of that for now. You can see it's going crazy, right? We didn't calibrate it, out of limits. There's nothing hooked up. Okay. Guided component test. This is going to be one of the more common areas that most of my diagnostic dummies out there are going to be going through, right? So those of us that don't use and play with this kind of stuff on a day-to-day, this is going to be like your best friend here, guided component tests. Might even be your best friend as a diagnostician in general. So say we're looking for the crankshaft position sensor. Let's got one right here. We want component information. Okay, we want to know where it's located, pinout readings, things like that. If we select the component information, it's going to tell us that number 2, PCM 12 volt. That's a pinout number 2 for the PCM connector. Pin 12 is the crankshaft position sensor signal. Tells you dark blue with white tracer, okay? And then pin 21 is the PCM ground. So if you wanted to test the signal at the PCM, but also see if the PCM is getting voltage, etc., and has a good ground, it's telling you where to back pin probe the PCM connector harness. If we scroll down and we can see where the crankshaft position sensor component information is, it's going to tell us that pinout number B is the PCM ground, pinout A is the crankshaft signal, and then C is the 12 volt ref. And then of course here it's going to tell us the component location. Behind the starter motor, starter must be removed. In order to service the sensor, PCM is located in the engine compartment between the battery and the radiator. So it's also telling you where the PCM is located as well. So this is helpful information to help get you guys there a little bit quicker without having to go through all these electronical diagrams on all data, Identifix, Shopkey Pro, Mitchell, etc. So that's what I loved about this. Like I said, it's diagnostic troubleshooting for dummies. They really make it easy for you to really just kind of go after it, right? They give you the code, they show you what the most common repair was, and instead of just guessing at it, you go through and you can learn how to test the sensor by going into guided component tests. We got a key on engine cranking test. So if we wanted to see if we got any kind of a signal while it was cranking, and we have probed the connector, we can actually see if it's making a signal, on-off signal, as we're cranking, or if there's any huge gaps or anything like that. Maybe it's going to help lead us to a possible cracked flex plate. You just don't know. Helpful that it's there. Signature test. So they have a signature test available here. They'll show you what you're looking for too. So if we wanted to make this bigger, we tap on it right here. Again, it's going to give us all of our information. And if we scroll down, it's going to show us the waveform that we're looking for when we're doing a signature test. Again, giving you all the different references as far as pinouts, colored wires, etc. And then out of range, no signal test. So we don't have to go into that. I think you guys are catching on here. So they have the same exact thing for your air injection system, camshaft position, control module locations, ECM, electronic coolant temp, EGR, evap fuel, idle air, ignition control module. I mean, mass airflow. I mean, they just go on and on and on, and gives you as much information as they possibly can. Another reason why you probably want to stay more up to date. Now, it's not just engine information they're going to give you. They're also going to give you T-case information, ABS information, as well as transmission information. Transmission information, you can look at TCC lockup, so torque converter control lockup. You can look at your range switch, shift solenoids, fluid temperature sensor. This is going to be a big one, okay? Chevrolet is pretty big. Fluid temperature, climbing up and down grades. If it seems like that the warning light is going on and it's saying transmission running hot or overheating, come to find out there's actually a thermostat built into some of the newer transmissions that Chevrolet has. So you might want to figure out where that sensor is to make sure, one, rodents didn't chew the wire, two, that it's working, or at least it's giving the right volt ref, etc., before you go condemning the thermostat within the transmission. So this is all helpful information for you guys that are just starting to learn diagnostics like myself, okay? I am not an expert. I don't pretend to be an expert, but I don't mind spending expert money, so that way I look a little less foolish when I want to start figuring things out on my own. Global OBD2. So they have OBD2, so your pocket readers and things like that that you picked up from C-Reader, Bosch, Actron, etc. Well, it's going to give you all the same exact stuff. And in fact, by going into your global OBD2 diagnostic, we'll go into training mode. Start communication. Continue. So simply by just going right into global OBD2, if you're looking to see if the readiness monitors in the vehicle have set going into smog, instead of having to auto look something up, say the vehicle's never been in your shop, you don't have any previous saved vehicle history data on your scan tool, but you just want to know if the readiness monitors have already set, instead of going through all the rigmarole of looking everything up, and even not every vehicle can be auto ID'd, sometimes you have to manually input them. Just go to your global OBD2 and select readiness monitors completed since DTCs were cleared. Now on this page, it's going to give you a list of ones that are either not compatible, not complete, or that are complete. So in this, for this instance, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 already in the red right here, not supported. Okay. The minus signs are going to be the ones that are not complete. So our catalyst is not complete, our evap's not complete, but the heated catalyst is. Scroll down, go again, go through the same exact thing. EGR system is complete, all the way down to the very bottom. So this is a faster way of just checking to see if the OBD2 monitors have set prior to doing a smog. Now I'm not going to dive into all the random details here when it comes to the scan tool portion itself when we go into the scanning version, because there are quite a few other videos that are out there. Again, I'll put the link down to the Snap-on Diagnostic ones that I was watching over the weekend for this. That give you a lot of really good and in-depth and involved information specifically for this scan tool. But on here, if we wanted to do a complete code scan, we can. It's going to show us all the different codes throughout all the different modules that are available within that specific vehicle, or we can individually select the computer control modules that are available. This scan tool will tell you which ones are available. If it's not there, then it does not have a computer for it, okay? And then it'll kind of go down and down and down and give you all the different stuff that it has, okay? And if you decide that you just wanted to get right into it and go right to engine, because that's what you're looking for, just select the top one and it takes you right there. Now in here we have codes menu, clear codes, data display, functional test, generic functions. Let's just select generic functions. Generic functions. We just talked about global OBD2 and selecting it instead of going through the entire vehicle manufacturer manually selecting or waiting for auto select to take place. It took that many buttons to get to the same exact thing that you could have pushed in 1 or 2 buttons and gotten there. Okay, that's the generic function. Functional test. Now this is going to give you all the functional tests that are available for this particular vehicle manufacturer, not for the scan tool, just for this manufacturer that you plugged into. So in here we have a crankshaft position variation learn, camshaft position actuator tests, evap service bay test, and on, things that I don't know of. Throttle sweep, so you can check the throttle body to see if the butterfly is opening up and closing as it should, what percentage it's at, etc. So this is all helpful stuff. Data display, you guys have seen this. We're not going to get into too much detail here, but if you go into the data display and you just want misfires, you can select Misfire Data and it'll give you all the cylinders to see which cylinder is misfiring. Alright, so pretty cool stuff, this Triton D8. I like the intelligent diagnostic platform that they have. I like the fact that the scope is built into the tool. A long time ago, I didn't think I was going to like that feature. Honestly, I thought for me at that time frame, because there were certain situations when I was at the dealership where I used the scan tool in conjunction with the scope. So having 2 separate tools I found to be more beneficial at that time frame when I was using them. More recently, now that I don't do a lot of things with diagnostic troubleshooting at my work currently over at the independent shop, I use a scan tool more than I do the lab scope, and the only couple times that I've used the lab scope, I've been able to use the lab scope without necessarily needing the scan tool portion of it. So for me, juggling back and forth between the two, it's worked out okay. One of the things that I wish that I did have the ability to, that I did not know I was going to wish I had the ability to, was having a 4-channel scope instead of a 2-channel scope. Alright, so overall some pretty cool features to like about this Triton D8. You got the 2-channel lab scope, you got the intelligent diagnostic platform, you got the scope, you got the built-in digital multimeter, you got guided component tests, quick lookups, oil resets, ABS bleeding, and much more. There's so much stuff that this tool is capable of that I didn't know that Intelligent Diagnostics made available until most recently. Princess Jamie was the one that kind of originally turned me on to the idea of further investigating this Triton D8. Polly's Auto kind of turned me on to the idea of further investigating the Zeus. So I'm actually kind of in between right now. We did get this one fully unlocked. I am going to see if I can't get my hands on a Zeus and see if I prefer that one over the Triton D8. There are some features that he made mention that I did not think about at the time. One of those key features was cam crank correlation. We have dual overhead cams. Some of them have variable valve timing. Those variable valve sensors that are on top there, you're going to want to be able to back pin or pin probe those 2 plus the crank sensor. Some situations you might have 2 crank sensors, maybe one in the front and one in the rear. So then you might need 4, right? So this really kind of got the wheels turning. And I was thinking to myself, well, you know, if I'm already going to be spending this kind of money on this particular product and having the ability to be able to take myself to that next level and get more into diagnostics, then I might as well go all in, okay? Not kind of pussyfoot around and just put a little bit in as I go. I've had the Solus Edge in the past. I had the Vantage Ultra in the past. Those were 2 really good scan tool and scope options for me during that time frame. I believe this Triton D8 will do everything and then some that I'm currently doing at work, especially with still kind of tiptoeing into diagnostics. But I do believe that he is correct, that if I'm going to be going in this direction and I want to better myself and learn more about it, instead of buying the same exact thing of a newer level that I already had, I might as well just kind of go all in, go that next level, and then put all my cards on the table and then see what happens. So I am excited about that. There's another feature though that I learned along the way as I was using the Triton D8. So I was doing a throttle. I was clearing codes on what you guys saw, the Subaru Impreza. I was clearing all codes. We just got done doing some repairs that had to do with the turbo and some seals and some other things that we had to unplug and test. And as I got ready to clear the codes, the Triton D8 told me that I was going to have to do a throttle body relearn. Well, I said, okay, cool, throttle body relearn, piece of cake. I mean, anytime any scan tools told me it needed a throttle body relearn, the feature was there. So I went ahead, hit OK, and no throttle body relearn. Was not under any kind of special functions, was not in the engine, was not in the PCM or the engine area, could not find it anywhere, was not available. I was, however, able to do a throttle sweep with my foot and watch the live data on the engine display screen with all the different PIDs. I was able to watch the throttle position sensor move up and down in percentage. So at least I was able to see that it was seeing 0 to wide open and halfway, etc. So at least I knew it was working, but it did say it needed a relearn, just wasn't available. Not sure if that's a scan tool thing or if that's a vehicle manufacturer thing where not all vehicle manufacturers require the vehicle to have the relearn reset via a scan tool, or if it's just gonna self-correct itself on the road test. So, and then after 2 drive cycles or whatever, be reset. So that'd be a question that I would have for someone that has been using the Triton or the Zeus or even the Apollo that has run into the situation. Have you guys run into this? And do you think it is a scan tool bug, or do you believe it to just be what I had said it was? Basically that it's a relearn that's self-adjusting as you're driving. That's all I got for this video, guys. Look, I hope you enjoyed today's content. Here coming up within the next day or two, we will be reviewing a Zeus that is completely unlocked. We will take a look at some of the features, benefits of having it over, say, something the Triton, and I will make my decision from there as to which one it is that I'm going to go with. Thanks as always for watching my channel. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers and deuces.